Hello and welcome to 10 Minutes with TmFal. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about the Growth-Hardship Circle. So, life comes with hardship, difficulties, obstacles, stumbles, whatever you want to call it. Life happens, and sometimes it happens when we're actually least expecting it. Most times it does. We're kind of merry on our way, and then boom, something happens. It's a divorce, it's a loss, it's a job recession, it's economic stuff, something happens. And then we're trying to figure out how to navigate that, how to move into a thriving mindset, how to not just be in survival mode. And one of the things that we can do is figure out how we can grow continuously and invest in our self-growth, not just physical, but actually psychological growth, emotional growth, mental health growth, resilience, so that when these things happen, we're able to not just survive them, but thrive after that or despite that. So here's to our circle. Let's make a big circle. Imagine that circle broken into 4 quadrants equal A, B, C, and D. The top half of that circle, which has A and B, is growth. So you're operating in a growth mentality, growth mindset. And in the lower half is no growth, just stagnant. And then we look vertically from left to right. One half has no hardship, and the other half has hardship. So we went from no hardship to hardship vertically in the halves, and then top and bottom growth. At the top, the bottom, no growth or stagnant. So let's walk through our quadrants and see where we want to be operating. So quadrant A, which is the top left, is growth, because all the stuff at the top is growth. So it's growth and no hardship. This is where, if we're fortunate, where we want to be. There's no hardship, but we're growing. This is investing in your growth, figuring out where you are, being introspective, figuring out how you can grow as a person, as an individual, figuring out what skill sets you need so that when hardship comes, you're able to cope with that, stilling up your resilience, growing as a person, knowing what you want, defining your purpose in life, following your passions, writing down your goals, and just growing, resolving to be in a growth mindset. This is in a time of no hardship. Then we move to quadrant B, which is growth still, because this is in the top right, but this is in a period of hardship. And if we're honest, for many of us, this is where our growth comes. This is what happens when all of a sudden a divorce happens, a separation happens, a job is lost, a kid develops an issue. There's some hardship, planned or unplanned, foreseen or unforeseen. And usually that's when we learn things. We figure out, wow, I have this skill set. Wow, I didn't know I could do this. All of a sudden we're dusting off our resumes. We're looking at job skills that we didn't even think we had. If we had financial difficulty, we're not looking for side hustles that we become main hustles. We're looking at other skill sets that we had and things we can trade up for other services. We're really finding out our growth. We're praying more. We're figuring out our mental health. We're looking at other ways to grow during that time, usually triggered by hardship. So the good thing is we're growing. And hopefully the skills and things we learn during this period will serve us well when another issue comes up, because there will be more hardships in life. And this is where most of us get our growth spurts. The goal is that when that period ends and we're back in an A where there's no hardship, that we continue to grow. So we're building up those reserves and building up the escrow, as you think about it, and making those deposits in our growth so that when hardship hits again, which it will in different forms, we actually have the resilience to do better with it and roll with it and survive it and thrive after that. So again, the top half, A and B, is a growth mindset. The best time is to do it when there is no hardship, so we're shoring up our stores. And when it does happen with hardship in B, a lot of us do grow from that. Now going to the lower half, which is the no growth, stagnant, stillness, same. This is where we don't want to be as adults. And as we're growing every day, if you're in this lower half, there is no growth. Now the lower half has two quadrants, like in the top one. In the lower right is C, which is no growth in hardship. So we know that this half of the circle is hardship. So the lower right is no growth plus hardship. So this is when something happens. There's hardship, like we described above. A marriage ends, financial stuff, a job is lost, something happens, major loss happens, and we refuse to grow from that. This is where major illness happens, and post-illness, we're not able to recover, and we just keep dwelling on the why me, why me, why me. This is a hardship that happens, and we do not grow from it. We do not learn lessons from it. We don't take time out to figure out what happened, what we can change next time, how we can grow from this experience, how we can get better. This is where people become bitter and they just sit without growing from the experience. Now, this is not a good place to be, because not only did you not use that experience to grow, which is what happens in B, it also means that when the thing happens again or another hardship happens, you haven't built up any stores, you haven't learned from it, and you're more likely to get even into a worse place this next time. So we don't want to be operating in a no growth at any point, but especially when there's hardship. The last thing we want to do is to quit and just sit in it and not grow from the experience. And then the last quadrant, which is the lower left, is the D, which is still no growth because it's lower, but it's also no hardship. So for some people, it's kind of like, well, this is, there's no hardship, I don't need to grow. Well, no. This is if we're fortunate to be living in a time of no hardship, and this half of the vertical, that's where you want to grow. So if you're in no hardship, no growth, you're pretty much just stagnant. You're sitting there. It's a place of, I would say, a place of denial, a place of complacency, a place where we're not making advantage or taking advantage of the no hardship. This is where you want to grow. This is where your job is stable. There are no talks of a recession or downsizing, but this is where you want to grow. This is where you're thinking, wow, what can I do in case there's a recession? What if my company decides to merge and downsizing? What other classes can I take? How do I brush up on my resume? What other courses can I take? This is where if the marriage is going well, you're saying, how else can I improve on that relationship? What can I do around this marriage? If the kids are doing okay, what else can I do with the kids? How can we show up our relationship? How can I do stuff with my health? This is where you want to grow. But if you're sitting in a no hardship, no growth, it's a place of complacency because you have no reserve for when that hardship comes, which it will come, and you're more likely to stay in a no growth or get into frantic mode at that point. So if you're operating in D, no growth, no hardship, that's a place of complacency. What you want to do is move that up to an A, which is growth despite no hardship. You want to make sure that even when things are stable, everything looks fine, you're figuring out a growth mindset and how you can do better and improve and show up your resilience so that when hardships do happen, you have the coping mechanisms, not just to survive, but to thrive. So again, this is the circle. Top half is growth mindset, getting better every day. The bottom half is no growth or stagnant. You don't want to be in the bottom half. And then the left side of the circle vertically is no hardship. And when there's no hardship, you want to be in a growth mentality, doing your best so that when those things happen, this is where you're sitting in your no hardship, but you're looking at ways to butter up your resume, take those extra classes, do marriage counseling, do things that help you so that when those hardship comes on the second half of the chart vertically, you're in the growth mindset, you have skills that can help you. You want to be operating at A. If you're in B, which is where a lot of times our growth comes from with hardship, you want to make sure that the experiences and things you learn during that period of hardship helps you so that when you get into a place of no hardship, you can continue to grow. You don't want to be somebody in C who, despite a hardship, does not grow or learn from it, because that's not going to serve you well. And you definitely don't want to be in a state of complacency when there is no hardship, because that's your opportunity to store up your growth bank. Again, it's been fun, 10 minutes with TmFal, and this is the Growth-Hardship Circle. Thank you.